Where does your favorite NFL team rank with just one, yes, 1 week remaining in this NFL regular season? I give you my NFL power rankings, ranking all 32 NFL teams from the worst, number 32, to the best, who is the number 1 team in the NFL with only 1 week left in the regular season. Who should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl? Who are the worst of the worst? And which teams are dark horses to make a run in the playoffs? Before I get started with my NFL power rankings, ranking every single NFL team every single week here on the Bottom Line View, make sure that you do spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly NFL power rankings just like this. And if you enjoy this series, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification bell so that you're notified with the latest upload, the latest live stream, the latest on the BLV. Without further ado, let me know in the comments section below where you would rank your favorite team. Let me know your season in review of the regular season for your favorite team. I understand we still have 1 more week and that might change some results and who enters the playoffs and all that. But I want to hear from you, especially if your team isn't any good. I want to hear if you're optimistic about the future or if you're just completely down on your team and you want to throw your jersey in the garbage. Let me know in the comments. Let's go. At number 32, back in the last spot on the power rankings, I'm going with the Carolina Panthers. And the reason for that is because of one thing and one thing only. It has nothing to do with Bryce Young. It has nothing to do with the Carolina Panthers on the field, despite being blown the F out versus the Jacksonville Jags. Now, that is a little embarrassing considering Jacksonville looked incompetent, considering they didn't have the prince that was promised at the helm. But your owner, David Tepper, is a complete, utter jackass, throwing drinks on opposing fans, not even in his own building. What's that about? You can't do that. Come on, man. That's why you're number 32. You can't have your owner doing that. So, I need no more evidence. You have the worst record in the league, and your owner is completely distraught. He can't handle the truth. At number 31, Washington. The Commanders stink. Now, that being said, I did think they put up an effort against the Niners. They at least tried in this game, and they didn't get completely dominated, completely blown out. Now, we know that the Commanders are going to be in good position in the draft. They could, if they want to, go after a quarterback with a top 3 pick in the draft. They're not going to beat Dallas next week. Dallas needs to win that game to win the division. They're not going to beat Dallas. They might try to beat Dallas. It's not going to happen. So Washington's going to be in position for a quarterback. They could also go out and maybe they want to take a swing at a vet like Russell Wilson. But what we know is that they're going to bring in a new regime. Potentially new general manager, potentially new head coach, all that stuff. And I do think that this team still has a few pieces to be competitive in the next couple of years. I do think they need to rework the offensive line. I do think that trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat certainly takes away some of the talent on defense. But I don't think this is the most unfixable situation in the NFL, considering the draft pick, considering, the city, the franchise. I feel like they have enough pull, enough legacy with the ownership of the past behind them. I actually feel like the commies can move forward and have success. Maybe not next year, but soon. So I'm intrigued by the future of the Commanders to see what they do and who they go after as their head coach and the culture builder, more importantly, of this franchise. At number 30, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, obviously, you have to put that asterisk beside it because Justin Herbert is not playing. So this is the Herbert-less Chargers with Easton Stick. They fall back down to earth against Jared Stidham. They lost to Jared Stidham. They lost to the Broncos, who lost to the Patriots. So just keep that in mind, okay? This team needs a new coach. But lucky for the Chargers, they do have the super talented Justin Herbert. They do have a very good left tackle. They do have a couple receivers that may be on their last legs, Keenan Allen, but still playing really well when he's in the lineup. Mike Williams will be back next year. Eckler, I don't know. You got to get rid of him. He's done. He is done. But the defense, I don't think it could get any worse. If you bring in a new coordinator, a new scheme, you mix it up a little bit, new regime, new culture. Maybe you go after a big coach, a big name like a Harbaugh or a Belichick. This Charger team and this franchise, I feel like could be good. This team could be good next year. There's no doubt about it with Herbert at quarterback. So at least with Charger fans, they're going to be optimistic as long as they have Justin Herbert for the next 10 years. But hopefully they don't waste Herbert the way that they potentially did, with a Rivers, although he had to compete with, a much stronger conference, guys like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and, the rest of them. So we'll see what Herbert can get done. But number 30, Los Angeles Chargers. Hope in the future. For now, you stink. At number 29, the Tennessee Titans. This is the team that I feel like has the least optimistic future. You look at the Titans roster. What do they have to hang their hat on? They certainly don't have an offensive line. They need to rework that entire operation, rebuild that entire operation. Quarterback situation is a disaster. Ryan Tannehill is old, and Will Levis does not look like a proper future starting quarterback in the league. He has tools, toughness, grit, arm strength, little bit of mobility. I think he'll be a guy that is a fringe starter for a lot of years. He has the physical ability to give that optimistic sense to him, but I also feel like there's something missing as well. Maybe it's up here. Derrick Henry is obviously past his prime and probably leaving. They don't really have a young go-to receiver. DeAndre Hopkins, don't know how much longer he's going to be a Tennessee Titan. The defense, there's not really many marquee players outside of Jeff Simmons. So the Titans are a very, very, very down bad, down on their luck franchise. And Mike Vrabel seems extremely frustrated with the current state of this team. I wonder how much longer he will be the head coach. I think it would be an extremely disappointing move to let him go. I feel like he's a great coach, but I also understand that he might not be the guy to kind of re-push this franchise in the right direction. They might need to just completely start over, which is also fair. And then you look at your division and you see Stroud, you see Richardson, you see Lawrence, and it doesn't look very good when you're comparing quarterbacks. At number 28, the New York Jets. I've said this so many weeks in a row. I will continue to say it. Robert Saleh should not be the coach next year. Hackett should not be the offensive coordinator next year. Aaron Rodgers will fail miserably. I will be on record until next season when it happens with this same opinion. I do not care if I upset Jets fans. I'm going to keep it real with you. Your team is not going to do anything as long as the offensive line is this way, the offense is this way. And yeah, the defense is talented and good, but how much longer can they sustain it? You never really know when you're going to get hit with multiple injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and that can completely derail a defense for a season. So the Jets are my number 28. I mean, they're playing Trevor Siemian at quarterback. Are we serious right now? At number 27, the New York Giants. The New York Giants, they've been competing hard. They're also a team, though, that they just don't have a lot of assets. Like, you look at this team, Dexter Lawrence. I guess you could say Kayvon Thibodeau, I guess, right? Like, on the defensive side of the ball, McKinney's all right? The young kid Banks, he's promising, I guess. Like, there's not a lot. Okereke, always forget how to say his name. He's good, but he's like in his prime right now. What do you really have to work with on offense? Saquon is a running back, and he's getting a little older now in terms of he's definitely had his fair share of injuries, and he's wearing down with all the wear and tear he's getting. I mean, you don't have a real go-to receiver. Darren Waller looks like he's broken. I mean, the O-line is not very good. Like, I don't really know what this team has. They don't have a quarterback, in my opinion. I think Daniel Jones is okay at best. So I like Brian Daboll. I don't think that, he's necessarily an elite coach, but I think he's a good coach. I think they have a good staff. I think they understand, how to put a team in a position to win and be successful. And we saw it last year, but they're a long ways away from sustaining success, right? There's one thing to have fluky kind of one season run, and then there's another idea of having sustained success. And I don't think the Giants have anywhere near that right now. At number 26, the Denver Broncos. This team can be flipped very quickly, in my opinion, because I think when you watch the team this year, you see a team that's honestly not super talented, but they've got some nice players in certain positions. I think their offensive line is well built. I think they've got a solid O-line. I think that Cortland Sutton certainly can play at a high level. I feel like they might have something in Mims. I feel like Javonte's a solid running back. I feel like Zach Allen, some of the young edge rushers, Pat Surtain, obviously, Justin Simmons, obviously. I feel like if Sean Payton can find a quarterback he can work with, maybe add a receiver or two and do some things to the defense, like not too drastic here, I feel like this team next year could be a 10-win team if they figure that out. Now, maybe they go young at quarterback, which would be fair, but I still feel like Sean Payton is a very good coach. He understands how to build a culture, and we saw it this year that he can kind of make a team that isn't very talented better than they are. And I think that next year you could easily see the Broncos being a surprising up-and-coming team in the NFL. So Denver, not playing great as of late. Jared Stidham gave them a tad bit of a spark there, but they beat a bad Charger team. Not super impressive. But overall, I think their future is maybe a little bit more optimistic than I think people give them credit for because of the Russell Wilson situation. At number 25, the New England Patriots. My Patriots, I will admit, have been playing pretty hard and have been playing pretty well, honestly. Like, I thought that they could have easily beaten the Bills, if not for 2 to 3 of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my life by Bailey Zappi. And clearly, Bailey Zappi is not an NFL starter. Clearly, he is not an NFL backup in many ways. So I do think a lot of New England's issues, especially with Zappi in there, have been quarterback-driven. I feel like the offense, though, from a rhythm, a protection standpoint, has actually gotten better since Mac got pulled and they put in Zappi. I do think that the one thing that you've seen from Zappi is maybe a little bit more toughness, a little bit more willing to be gritty and to run and to do those sort of things and just keep plays alive. And I think Mac was maybe a little bit too in his own head and lacking confidence. But I feel like New England has an awesome defense. They continue to play very hard. They have a lot of promising players. It's not just scheme. Promising players on defense. I think that Demario Douglas continues to shine. I think I'm intrigued by the tight end and what they do at that position in the offseason. The offensive line certainly needs a couple upgrades, but it's not too far off. And we know Stevenson's going to be there. Maybe Zeke comes back. Maybe they draft somebody like running back's not too big of a deal. I honestly feel like New England, again, like just as I felt last offseason, it's not all too different. Despite the results, I kind of feel like their quarterback play away and their one receiver or two away from being, and Kendrick Bourne should be back. So it really feels like they're a wide receiver one and a competent quarterback away from being a borderline, if not playoff team, even in a tough AFC that's projected to be in the future. If they keep Belichick, I'm cool with it because of what he brings to the defensive side of the ball and because he is a good coach. But I'm also fine if they move on. I'm kind of stuck in no man's land because I understand why they would move on, and I would also be up for an offensive-minded team. But at the same time, I also understand the value of Belichick on defense. So I'm kind of stuck. But I do feel like I am just extremely enticed by the situation with the draft, and this is going to be a huge draft for the Patriots' future. At number 24, the Arizona Cardinals, who I think have a pretty interesting future coming up. Kyler Murray certainly feels like he is a franchise quarterback. Is he going to ever be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? I don't think so. Especially because I don't know. We'll see him next year. But right now, he doesn't look like the freakish athlete he was maybe like a year or two ago pre-injury. But I will say, the guy is a baller, right? Like, great arm, accurate, can move, quickness, elusiveness, makes players around him better. Just a great athlete, right? And then you've got a really good, underrated offensive line. A couple pieces like Greg Dortch, Trey McBride, Wilson, and then Marquise Brown didn't play, but he's there. So you could maybe add another receiver to the mix. You can add plenty on defense. But this is actually a well-coached team. Jonathan Gannon has done a good job, and that's a great win for him against the Eagles, a super upset. James Conner looked like Jim Brown out there. But the Cardinals have a really interesting future. I think that they will be competitive with the Niners and the Rams. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually moved past the Rams like next year or the year after due to Stafford, his age, and that kind of situation. But the Cardinals are really underrated moving into the future, I think. Number 23, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings feel like a team that you could sell yourself on if Kirk Cousins was healthy. They could have been like divisional round NFC championship quality with the way their defense was performing when healthy and what Brian Flores was getting out of that unit in comparison to last year. With a healthy offense, they would have put up points each and every week, and they would have been, going toe-to-toe with Dallas, Detroit, and maybe even San Francisco in the NFC. But you could also sell yourself on maybe this team needs to look to the future at quarterback. Maybe this team is kind of getting by on defense through smoke and mirrors. And perhaps that's what we've seen the last couple of weeks. And the quarterback play was just not sustainable given the talent they were putting at that position. But I also feel like this team should run it back with Cousins. I feel like they should make a couple moves on defense. Hopefully they can keep Brian Flores there. And I honestly feel like this team could be a real team in 2024 with all the talent they have on offense, that home field they have, a lot of things to really like about the Vikings to at least be a pretty competent team moving forward. At number 22, the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are way more confusing just for the fact we don't know who the quarterback's going to be in the future. Should they make an aggressive move there to trade for somebody, maybe to bring somebody in? Should they try to trade up in the draft to get a quarterback? That's also a play they could make. But I don't think Arthur Smith should be the head coach. I just feel like he is a coach that, sure, on paper, has a nice scheme, has done some nice things on offense throughout his career, seems like a smart guy, but he does not use his best players in the best manner. And that is not a good coach, in my opinion. Defense has played pretty hard, but they're still lacking some pieces. Feels like Atlanta has missed on an opportunity to potentially make the playoffs and win a division because they were too stubborn to start Desmond Ridder at quarterback this year. At number 21, the Cincinnati Bengals. Every time I think about this team, I get frustrated. Every time I think about this team, I think of a season that was missed for an opportunity to go very far in the playoffs and to potentially make the Super Bowl and or win the Super Bowl. If Joe Burrow is healthy, if they have a healthy team, DJ Reader obviously has gotten hurt. They've had some losses. I feel like this team could have competed with anybody in the NFL on their best day. And it sucks. But at least they can use this season, get a better draft pick. They can use this season to reload. And they can use this season to understand what they need to improve entering 2024, which might actually help them get over the top. Oftentimes, a season that just moves back for whatever reason allows you to reevaluate your surroundings, your competition, and to come back even stronger. Hopefully they can maintain Higgins, Chase, and the bunch, and then come back stronger next year. I'm intrigued by it. Joe Burrow, him being back, he'll be motivated. I will be pumped to watch the Bengals play in 2024. At number 20, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think it's been a great story since they've let go of Josh McDaniels. There's few teams that have played with the same amount of passion, fire, energy, and all of it. The Raiders have been admirable. I obviously don't think O'Connell is the answer, but he does feel like a good backup in the league to have. Smart kid, can throw the ball well, and I am intrigued. I think this team should move off of Devontae Adams, recoup some assets, maybe try to sell him to the Jets, do something there, and then be able to rebuild your team. Get a quarterback in the building. This team, I think they should maintain the defensive coordinator. I really think the defense has played well above the skill level that they possess. I think they are getting back to grittiness, toughness in Raider Nation, which is just nice to watch. And I don't know where this team will go in the near future, but I do feel like they may have to take another step back before taking a step forward, just due to the fact that they don't really have that quarterback right now. At number 19, the Seattle Seahawks. One of the most frustrating teams of this season. They haven't really lost anyone of like a marquee name, right? They've maintained their skill positions intact. Their offensive line has been banged up all year, but they haven't really lost many of them for the season. And their defense has just been frustratingly bad. I think this is the time to let go of Pete Carroll and start over. I know that's not what Seahawks fans want to hear, but I really feel like watching this team, they are one of the teams that I see with talent that does not equate to wins and losses. They should be in the playoffs. There's no excuse. Pete Carroll has underwhelmed this year after a great year last year. And maybe they also need to look at a different quarterback, but I obviously don't think Geno is really the problem. Maybe he's not necessarily the answer, but he's definitely not bad. I mean, Pats fans would kill for Geno Smith. So Geno Smith is not really the problem. The defense is not good. And that's Pete Carroll's side of the ball. And they've got plenty of talent. And they've spent a lot of money. And they've spent a lot of capital to make that defense good. It's not good. So at number 19, the Seahawks. At number 18, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who still have a chance to make the playoffs. I don't know how. This team obviously is not anywhere near to what I think a playoff team should be. But Mike Tomlin continues to do it. It's death, taxes, and Mike Tomlin having a winning season. And for that fact, he'll maintain his job for the rest of his life as a Pittsburgh Steeler. As long as he keeps having winning seasons, even if it's 9-8, he'll still maintain his job. Although maybe they do need a shakeup because the offense has been a lot like New England. They're getting by on managing the game, right? Field position, defense, all that sort of stuff, the grittiness. And I can very much relate to Steeler fans. The offense has been frustrating all year. Quarterback play has been frustrating all year. And even more so than the Patriots, they actually have skill talent that you look at and you say, well, why aren't we getting these guys the ball consistently? You watch Pickens play. You watch Deontay Johnson. You watch the running backs, Jalen Warren. Like, this team has improved in a lot of areas on offense. Offensive line's been a lot better than last year. And yet they're not anywhere better than they were last year. It's just a weird team. And it feels like, again, they're playing better than they necessarily, their record is better than they necessarily have been playing all year. At number 17, the New Orleans Saints also have a chance to still make the playoffs, although I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll probably beat the Falcons, but I don't know if they're going to get the help that they need. That being said, I think, honestly, making the playoffs might be a bad thing for this franchise, because I think they need to reevaluate their purpose and what they're doing. I think they need to reevaluate the quarterback position. I think they need to reevaluate what they're trying to do here, why they're trying to still try to go after Drew Brees' second Super Bowl when Drew Brees isn't on the team. Like, I don't really understand. This defense is old. They need to start to rebuild and recoup, and it's going to be tough because of the situation they're in with the contract of Derek Carr and all that stuff, and the age of some of these players. They're going to have to make tough decisions, but tough decisions need to be made. So Saints are in a weird position. I understand why fans would want to make the playoffs, but at the same time, I actually think missing the playoffs might do the franchise more in the future. At number 16, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are just smack dab average. They still have a chance to make the playoffs. If they beat the Texans, I think they're in. Now, I do think the Texans will beat the Colts, but who knows? That being said, this team has been very smoke and mirrors and feels like they're not as good as their record, but they're a fun team. Like, Minshew's a fun guy. He's a fun quarterback. I think their run game is solid. Steichen's done a great job and a great story for him this year. Richardson gives them a bright future if he can figure out how to play at a high level in the NFL, and if they can figure out how to utilize him. We didn't really see enough, so I'm intrigued by that prospect in the future. And then defensively, they're surviving out there. I don't really know how, but their defense isn't all that good, but they still play that Gus Bradley sound system, and they play very hard. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They stay in a lot of games. And as a Colts fan, I can understand why you'd want to make the playoffs. Everything is just cherry on top. At the same time, I think Colts fans also know that they're not very good. It's more about the future than it is the now. So they're kind of a weird team. But yeah, they're pretty much the most average team you can think of in the NFL right now. At number 15, the Green Bay Packers. They have a lot of upside, but they also have a lot of downside. As we've seen in recent weeks, like, they can smack a team like the Vikings when they don't play the proper quarterback, but at the same time, they can nearly lose to the Panthers. And Jordan Love, I think he is that quarterback, super inconsistent guy. Misses some really easy throws, but also makes some of the most difficult throws in the NFL. He needs to learn how to properly utilize his mechanics in certain situations. Not every throw has to be a slick sidearm, off your back foot. Some might have to be, but not all of them. Not the throw to the right flat that you throw over the running back's head. You know what I mean? But run game is really good, and Aaron Jones provides a lot of spark. Christian Watson hopefully is back if they make the playoffs, and that will, I think, really put this offense over the top because Reed looks fantastic. I think Wicks is interesting. Dobbs makes a couple plays. The tight end position has really grown for them despite not having Musgrave. Kraft has been very good. So look out for this team if they make the playoffs. Their offense is, I think, really dynamic if they play to their upper echelon level. And then defensively, Joe Barry's a disaster, but they do have a lot of talent on the front seven, which I think gives them, a chance to make some big plays. So I think the Packers, it's all about their future as well, but this is a very good start to the Jordan Love era. If they could get to the playoffs and do better than they did with Aaron Rodgers last year, that proves that they made the right decision, in my opinion. At number 14, the Jacksonville Jags. I put them here due to the respect of what they've been when they've been their best this year, but they're not good right now. They played well against Carolina. It's Carolina. I mean, we talked about the owner and the situation of that franchise right now. But Jacksonville, their defense, good against the run, suspect against the pass. They need their secondary to be healthy for the playoffs. And they need to just survive this week and beat the Titans. I don't think it's going to be easy. That's a rivalry game. Titans are angry. Mike Vrabel's angry. He doesn't want to lose. He's going to go in there and try to win and upset and knock out the Jags. But Jacksonville's offense, just with Trevor Lawrence in there, he's been beat up. The offensive line's struggled a lot. Their rhythm has been off all year, and especially since Christian Kirk has left, it feels like they don't have that reliable third down chain mover guy, and it's a lot more like Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, and the run game is not very good. This team, I don't think stands a chance in the playoffs if they make it, so I wouldn't even mind if they missed, but at the same time, I do feel like a healthy Jags team should probably be one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle with this team. But the future certainly isn't as bright as we would have thought maybe in the offseason. A lot of people thought this team would be really, really good, potentially even get the number 1 seed, and they just haven't fulfilled that promise. At number 13, the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are playing really good football. They're not going to make the playoffs, but I feel like they have finished as a top 14 team in the NFL. And I think their defense is playing really well. They have a chance to knock their rival, the Packers, out of the playoffs and finally beat the damn Packers, which would be nice for them. Their defense, I just love how they play run defense. I love how they tackle. I think they play really fundamentally sound. They play hard. They run to the football hard. They play great coverage. Jalen Johnson's been great. Brisker's been great. Eddie Jackson, I feel like Eberflus should be back, as apparently the reports have suggested. I think that's the correct decision, at least for next year, and we'll reevaluate after next year, right? And give him a chance for a full season with this defense and maybe even add a piece or two. And then offensively, we'll see what the thing is with Justin Fields. But he's played better. I wouldn't say I would keep him over drafting Caleb Williams or anyone like that, whoever they decide to draft. I would probably trade him still because I think this is probably the best, type of situation. I know he has upside. I know he's a great athlete. I know he can make a lot of dynamic plays, but he's also very inconsistent. And I would look at moving off of Justin Fields personally. But I also think he's a starting quarterback. So I understand why Bears fans might be attached and want to keep Justin Fields and want to give him another year. But at the same time, you don't get a lot of opportunities to have the number one pick. And when you don't know for certain that guy is your guy, you have to take a chance, right? So I kind of feel like the Bears, they're in a great situation for the future with the assets they've built up thanks to Bryce Young. But I don't know, man. I think you move on from Justin Fields and you go with a quarterback and then you use the other pick for whatever you want. At number 12, the Tampa Bay Bucks, who I think are going to make the playoffs if they can beat the Panthers, which I think they will. They had a bad game against a rival in the Saints, who typically play them really well. I'm not going to take too much stock into that. I think for whatever people want to say about the Bucks, the fact of the matter is Tom Brady retired. Nobody thought this team would be good. This team has been better than anyone would have projected, and this season is an absolute W for the Bucks. I mean, if you would have told Bucks fans that they have a chance to go to the playoffs in the last week of the year and all they have to do is beat the worst team in the NFL before the season, you would have told them that after having the run that they had with Tom Brady, they would have taken that 100%. So this is an absolute W for the Bucks. Congratulations to Bucks fans for having a pretty fun year. Right? You don't expect to win the Super Bowl. There's not Super Bowl aspirations, but anything here is cherry on top. I think Todd Bowles deserves to keep his job next year, and I do think that Baker deserves to be their quarterback next year, and we'll see if they can build upon this season. At number 11, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are a frustrating team. Obviously, coming into the year, they had Super Bowl aspirations. They're nowhere near that right now. They are closer to being upset in the first game that they play in the playoffs than they are to going to the Super Bowl. They have so many issues on defense. I mean, they had to change their play caller just a couple of weeks ago. They can't get proper pressure. Their coverage is awful. I mean, they're playing guys like Ringo out there who can't cover a soul. Their linebacker position is still very weak. Their run defense has been atrocious as of late. James Conner looked like Jim Brown. And the offense has no rhythm, 6 plays that they run. And Jalen Hurts looks completely out of sorts. So at number 11, the Eagles. At number 10, the Houston Texans. They looked back against the Titans, in my opinion. They absolutely looked back. I felt like C.J. Stroud was putting the ball on the money all day. Their defense made a few big plays with their pass rush, strip sacked by the vet Jerry Hughes that turned the game in their favor in terms of putting it away, really, at that point. And they even knocked Will Levis out of the game. So a good job by the Texans, just taking care of business, really showing up. And I feel like this team is not a team that division winners want to play in the wild card round because of CJ Stroud and because of the offense and the explosive ability that they can bring. At number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. I felt like they didn't play well against the Giants. Stafford kind of missed a couple throws, and it ended up in the lap of the Giants. They also fumbled again, and they probably should have lost in the end of the game, giving up that punt return to Gunnar Olszewski. Mason Crosby misses a game-winning field goal. A lot of things went in their favor. They looked like the better team. They moved the ball pretty much at will in the first half, but they missed a lot of opportunities, which should have ultimately cost them the game. So at number 9, I have the Rams. Still feel like they're a bit of a dark horse in the NFC, but they definitely kind of maybe narrowed my expectation. At number 8, the Cleveland Browns. Joe effing Flacco does it again. The first 300-yard passer against the Jets since Tom Brady in 2021. That's all I got to say. This defense did not play well against the Jets. I thought they played atrocious in the first half. But, hey, when Joe Flacco's balling out, you can escape it for a half. So the Browns defense survives a bad week on a short week, but they're going to need their defense to play elite football for them to be successful in the playoffs consistently. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it, but hey, because of their track record and because of how Joe Flacco's playing, they got a shot against anyone right now. At number 7, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, I felt like they figured some things out, at least in terms of the style they needed to play with in order to beat the Bengals. It wasn't pretty. They kicked a lot of field goals. Their defense stepped up big time in the second half, but that's how they need to play to win these games. The Bengals' defense is not very good, so I think Chiefs fans are probably going to overrate their offensive performance, but they do need to stick to the run. They do need to ride Pacheco, and they need to kind of complement their defense if they want to go far in the playoffs. At number 6, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions played way better on defense than I ever would have thought against Dallas. Yes, they gave up so many catches to CeeDee Lamb, but their run defense was fantastic. I thought they got more pressure on Dak Prescott than expected, and they made more stops, period, than I would have expected. Their offense actually kind of underwhelmed against the Cowboys, and they made some really bad mistakes that I'll talk about in my NFL review from a coaching standpoint. But the Lions impressed me, and it made me believe that they could get to the NFC Championship with that defensive performance. At number 5, the Miami Dolphins. Very beat up. Not really sure where to rank this team, but they're a very good team on offense still, I think. They can run it. They can throw it. And as long as Tua doesn't turn it over, they can hang with teams in shootouts. Defensively, I'm concerned with all the injuries they have, but they have very good coaching on both sides of the ball. Still a lot of good players. And we'll see how they look against Buffalo. That's really all I have to say. We know they're making the playoffs. They might not win their division, though. At number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. I thought their ability to survive and just find a way to win that game against the Lions was good. I also feel like, on the other hand, there's some concerning elements. I thought too much was on Dak on third down. I felt like Mike McCarthy's play calling on first down was atrocious. I felt like their defense's last drive was very bad. At the same time, love the mentality on defense to be super aggressive against the run game. I thought that worked out for them. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. Did not look good against New England, but I'm also willing to say, okay, that's New England's defense, Belichick, all that stuff. But same time, this team feels like right now on offense, they need to be able to run the ball to have success, and that's concerning. Their receiving core looks really bad right now, and Allen's looking like every play has to be on him to make it, and that's concerning. But the defense does look really good for the most part. The run defense especially, the defensive line especially, really, really good stuff. At number 2, the San Francisco 49ers. They're a complete team. I felt like in the first half, they maybe came out a little sluggish defensively, especially. I'm a little concerned with their inability to play man in certain moments, but Washington has good receivers. At the same time, I do feel like, I'm kind of nitpicking here, but the offense, I think, still the best in the league. The defense, they need to, if they're going to win the Super Bowl, their defense might not have to play peak in every single game they play, but they're going to have to play in the biggest of games their most complete game. And it feels like their defense has been a little bit more volatile than the last couple of years. They need to figure out that playoff formula on defense. And if they can do that, I think Brock Purdy won't throw 4 picks in a game against Baltimore again. And I think that will give them the opportunity to win the Super Bowl. But ultimately, I have them at number 2, not because of the Niners or anything they did, but more so just because the Ravens, after beating the Niners, just smacked around the Dolphins. And that to me is thoroughly impressive. And that to me is worth ranking them at number 1. Right? Lamar has solidified MVP. I felt like Zay Flowers, huge play. Isaiah Likely, huge play. Odell, huge play. They're getting huge plays from different players. Their pass protection was amazing, and their defense continues to turn the football over, get pressure, and get key stops, although they do get gashed in the run game. That's something to look out for in the playoffs. But number 1, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now, the way they're playing at this moment in time. I would still favor the Niners to win the Super Bowl, but I understand now watching them beat the Niners and then shellac the Dolphins, that type of play in this moment is undeniable for the top spot. So thank you guys for watching. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL power rankings just like this. It's Mitch. We'll see you in the next video for week number 18. Peace, guys.